Hey, welcome to another episode of Clear Lake Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses of Bay Area Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Today's special guest is Rick. You're with CLS Health. Tell me about CLS Health. What do you guys do?
We are comprehensive healthcare here in the Clear Lake area. That's where we started, and now we have expanded pretty dramatically in the last 18 months all across Houston. And we have our primary medical campus here, and we have jumped added 15 new offices in about a year's time. We're up to 35 offices across the Houston metro area with over 30 different specialties, 15 plus PCPs, primary care providers, and over 30 different service lines represented within our little network.
How long have you been with CLS Health?
About 2 years now.
Okay, so you've been part of this. It sounds like an amazing growth trajectory.
Dramatic growth. It is. And the funny thing is, people ask, where do the doctors come from? A lot of the growth is due to organic growth, internal referrals. People like to work with people they know and people they like, right? Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of referrals from our current doctors that have friends that are out in the healthcare community that are looking to make a change for a whole variety of reasons. And funny thing is, many of those come from some of the larger healthcare systems that are all, brand name, household names for all of us. A lot of folks, they've been there a while and decided to make a change. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
And some of these folks are from clinics that they own that are well established, that have been in business for many years. And the doctors have just decided, I'm tired of trying to run a business. It's just, the never-ending monkey on their back of all the credentialing and the compliance and the legal and the marketing and trying to pay salaries and trying to keep up with supply chain and they said, I just want to come in and treat patients and go home at the end of the day, which is perfect because that's what we do. We allow them to do just that, and we have an entire building of just administration that handles all that back-end work so that it clears their mind of all that additional daily stress, if you want to call it that, of all those things. They don't have to keep up with that anymore. Just take care of the patients.
Yeah.
And that's all we ask.
So how did you guys start? And when did you guys start?
We have two founders, Dr. Baba and Dr. DeWake, and they're both primary care, they're both critical care pulmonologists. This was back in 2005 here in Clear Lake. And we were known as Clear Lake Specialties. And as it grew, it was a group of specialists. And as we moved forward over time, they realized that the role that primary care plays in healthcare and how dramatic it is and how it influences so much of what happens in healthcare all starts with the primary care physician. And they said, well, we're going to open up to primary care now. And in the course of about 5 years or so, we've got over 15 primary care doctors now. So
each location has primary care?
Yes.
Okay.
And we do have standalone locations that are singular in aspect. Like we have multiple podiatry centers that are just podiatry, and that's all they do. They specialize in just the one thing. We've got a couple of offices that are cardiology specific. I believe we have a couple of offices that are also possibly endocrine, I believe. But yeah, so in the process of gaining all of the primary care doctors, they decided to change the name because primary care specialties is very specific to specialists. Mm-hmm. And they felt like they're not giving the primary care doctors the attention and the respect that they deserve. So they just shortened the name to CLS Health. And that's where we are now.
And have you been in the healthcare industry your entire career? Or?
In one form or fashion, yeah. I've been involved in a lot of provider recruiting for many, many years, and that's what's taken me into CLS. I had an opportunity as a recruiting manager, and that too now has evolved because as I was there, I saw a number of little areas that I think was low-hanging fruit that we needed to address. And so that took me off in another direction. And so now I'm involved with strategic partner management.
The growth trajectory is just it's almost unbelievable to have grown that that fast.
It's pretty staggering. It's pretty staggering. I think I don't want to get too deep into it, but we're probably increasing our overall net revenue by about $20 million a year.
And how are you finding the locations you need to be going to? Because, I mean, that's...
It's funny. We have a list that we sat down and put together a list of specific areas around town, certain neighborhoods where we'd like to have an office, and tried to strategize a little bit about how we would do that. And we would like to start with the couple of community clinics and then build a much larger building there that could feed, the community clinics would feed the larger building that's full of specialists. And as we have learned, or maybe it's just me, finding appropriate medical space is really much harder than most people would imagine. If you don't want to have to go in and strip the building to the studs and start over, there's plenty of that available. So if you take that off the table, what you're left with is a relatively few options. Simply because when you have to strip it to the studs, there's so much cost involved with having to redesign the whole thing, and the labor and the materials and the approvals and whatnot, that whole process. It's easier to take what they call it, a second generation medical office building that was previously an office of some type. It could have been pediatrics, it could have been podiatry, it could have been primary care, cardiac, some kind of previous medical office. That way we go in and we just tweak it as we need to make it work for us. Be it either new flooring or new paint, or move the nurses' station to a different area, or move a couple of walls. That's okay. That's an investment that works out. But
so finding that space has allowed you to be nimble and
right.
and react
finding
quickly.
That space has been the hard part.
Yeah,
we've got doctors that want to work in certain areas of town that we're having a tough time finding an office for. Yeah, so that turned out to be actually a bit of a bottleneck. So in the process, though, luckily we found a couple of places that were fairly large. We recently purchased a building that we loosely call it our Galleria office, which is southeast corner of 59 and 610, 10-story building. We're going to start at the 10th floor, rebuild it, and work our way down in the building, floor at a time. And so we just opened the 10th floor, and we've got a handful of doctors on the 10th floor now. And we think that given a couple of years' time to get through this and establish the building, it's going to change the entire healthcare ecostructure of that whole area up there, because there really isn't anything in that corner of the world that is that significant.
And whose vision is this? Because I mean, there's got to be some vision, and then there's the strategy.
Well, it all comes from Dr. Baba, and he's kind of laid it out of how he'd like to expand across the area, and I think at some point. People keep asking if we're going to expand beyond Houston, and I think all the major metro areas around Texas would be an obvious choice. DFW, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, and then beyond that, it could be out of state. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's remarkable to be a part of an organization that's growing that fast. It sounds like it's a great place to work. Talk to me about the culture there.
Well, Dr. Baba and Dr. DeWake make a point to kind of instill a sense of responsibility. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, we're still a fairly small company to speak of administratively. Like they do with all small companies, you wear a lot of hats, right? But it's your project. You own it. Strategize it. If you've got questions, come talk to us. In the meantime, put it together and run with it and show us what you can do. So everybody administratively kind of has their little world that they work within, and we're all moving independently, but we're all moving in the same direction. And he's real good, or they, I should say, are real good about supporting you about that.
It's kind of a cool story for me because it's kind of one of the Clear Lake area success stories that's expanding outwards instead of moving in, and I think that makes your story really special.
I think what's happened is, if you know healthcare, it's become pretty clear in the last, I was going to say a couple years, but it's longer than that actually. Probably in the last 5 years, possibly even longer than that. Healthcare has kind of become an eat or be eaten arena, and we've all got stories of offices that we know or doctors that we knew that we used to go see or something that now have been bought by somebody else, and we've got other what we used to consider competing groups here in the Houston area have been bought by other groups. And some of them were venture capital, some of them were insurance company related. And what happens is when the doctors lose control of the clinic, somebody else is calling the shots now. And depending on what the agenda is, that may change the level of care and care coordination. And so we decided we're independent. We're physician owned. We've got roughly 47 partners right now. Doctors. One of the upsides of joining us is the doctors usually have the option to become partner at about the 2-year mark. So everybody's got skin in the game. We're all working for the same end goal. And they leave the doctors alone. The doctors are fully autonomous. Again, it's their clinic, the staff, their schedules, anything they want to get involved in as their career develops. If they want to get into clinical research or academics or anything else, they're fully supported and can do that. We have an internal supply chain department that handles anything that they need for day-to-day disposables or durable medical equipment or anything else. We've got all that internally. Again, just come in and take good care of the patients. So back to not only are we as the administration are kind of given a certain level of authority and autonomy to move forward, but so are the doctors. It's very much hands off. This is your clinic. You know what you're doing. You know that this is how you were trained to treat these patients. Take care of the patients, and we're going to leave you alone.
Yeah, it's almost like a partnership, and you guys are doing the back end, and
that's it.
It's basically them outsourcing
the
hard stuff.
It's almost like a medical service organization, an MSO,
yeah,
that comes in and handles all the back end, as you say.
And that explains how you're able to scale it so fast, because they're already doing the job.
That's
You're
right.
just taking over some
That's
of
right.
the pain points.
We just add another office and incorporate all their specifics, and we've already got everybody on the back end that handles, again, the legal and the compliance and the marketing and the supply chain and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
It sounds like a great story, and like I said, it's so cool to have it grow from here, right here in Clear Lake, outwards. I look forward to continued success.
It's great. We're at 35 offices. We're all the way down to at the south end. We're at Texas City. We run all the way out to the east side on Baytown, all the way up to I believe the Woodlands. We're here in Webster. We've got the Galleria office open, and all the way out to Katy, and all the way down. We've got 3 offices in Sugar Land now, and so we're peppered all the way across the map. And so usually if somebody wakes up and doesn't feel well that morning, we've got a CLS doctor that's close by. The other thing that's kind of interesting is we have we believe, we could be wrong about this, but we believe we are the largest infectious disease group in Southeast Houston. We are the largest cardiology group in Southeast Houston, and we are the largest podiatry group in Southeast Houston. We also have a large number of hospitalists. So if a patient starts with one of our primaries and then moves to a specialist and then ultimately ends up in the hospital for some reason, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be seen by a CLS physician while you're in the hospital as well. So we've got doctors placed all over at all the local hospitals.
And most of them bring their own patients with. They already have established patients, and so it's. I could see how you could scale this so fast. Then, yeah. So you guys started here in the Clear Lake area. Where exactly is that office located?
We have our primary medical campus is here in Webster. It's off of Kobayashi and NASA 1. And it started as the 500 address, 500 North Kobayashi. And as the campus has grown, we now cover 500 address, the 600 address, and the latest building that we just opened, which is our new ambulatory surgical center in ASC, which is outpatient surgery only, is now 905 West Medical Center Boulevard, because it actually faces Medical Center Boulevard, but it's all one giant rectangle as a piece of property goes. So all 3 buildings line up together. The parking lot all connects. And We just opened that. It's going to be great. As soon as we get approval from the state on the design for the surgical center, we believe we could have that up and running come January, February.
Wow.
And in the meantime, we've already got doctors moving in on the 4th floor. So that's great. We're real excited about it.
And you're complete all the across the spectrum of ages, you know, from birth to...
We are. We have pediatrics all the way to geriatric.
Okay.
Everything in between. Mm-hmm.
And how do people find you? I assume all of your places are taking new patients?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, that's actually one of the key areas of my job. What I'm responsible for is to get out there and talk to folks and find ways to drive more traffic to our doors. And that is our current website is cls.health. And I know that at some point we're going to rebuild this website. They're already talking about it. And we're going to switch that to clshealth.com so that it kind of flows with kind of the accepted norm of everybody else's websites.
So at your Webster campus, it sounds like you're trying to bring in as many specialties as possible so that it's basically one-stop service. Yes.
We started in the smaller building at the 500 address. And over the course of time, we just outgrew it. We just had to have more space. More doctors kept wanting to join us. The patient load was climbing and climbing. We just didn't have the space. So they built the 600 building, roughly 70,000 square feet, 3 stories. And over the course of time, the funny thing was they weren't sure how they were going to fill it, was the big laugh at the time. And 5 years later, 6 years later, it now is bursting at the seams. We've got 25 different service lines, specialties, 25 different specialties under one roof. We have the ancillaries. We have dialysis. We have imaging. We have infusion. We have 2 pharmacies. And what that does is when you put all that under one roof, it makes care coordination so much easier for the doctors as well as the patients. They don't have to run back and forth across town to all these different offices. The most they have to do now is just walk down the down the hallway from one office to the next, and they're taken care of.
Yeah, and it's great to have something like that in this area. I think you've really found something.
It really simplifies it. And the other thing that's really kind of nice, I think, is we recently at a managers meeting we recently made the decision that essentially appointments we appreciate an appointment. If a patient would like to make an appointment, that's great. But if you wake up one morning and don't feel well and got to get in and see somebody, just come over. Bring a magazine. It may take a little while to work you on, but we'll see you. Okay. We will take care of you if you come in without an appointment. We'll make it happen.
Good, because I can't tell you how frustrating it is as somebody that needs something. I can see you next week.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully I'll be better by then.
Yeah. I may not make it a week. Give me a break, right? So, yeah.
Well, that's excellent.
And in some specialties, unfortunately, that is exactly the case. I'm sorry. It'd be 3 months before you can get in to see your cardiologist. Well, that ain't going to work. So, we can get you in.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you and continued success.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.